Okay, we're all set to call the meeting to order. First thing is the approval of the agenda, and there is an addendum.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion on this? Not, I'll call for it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Citizens to be heard. I think everybody here is on the watershed board, okay. We'll move to that. Approval of the minutes. We got minutes from July 19th and July 26th that need to be approved.
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Payment of the bills.
Are they here?
Yes.
Working on them.
Okay. Move approve.
Give a motion to approve in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Okay, with that, we're going to Bruce Albright, and how many you want to bring along up here, Bruce? We got Jerry.
Bring 'em all.
Paul, and, all right, Jerry.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to get I guess we call it an annual report from Buffalo Red River Watershed District.
Give one there, back there.
Watershed obviously remains very busy, lots going on in our life, so I'll just take a little bit of time and go through 2015 and also give you a little update as to what's happening in 2016, and then maybe a little peek into the future as to what's on our agenda to keep us busy. 2015, was a pretty good year. We kind of call it maybe the year of Manston Slough. It was a flood control project we developed down in Wilkin County. It holds back about 6,000 acre-feet of water. It's a huge wetland restoration. Almost 1,500 acres of wetlands were restored. That project was a long time in the making, some 8-9 years to make that happen. It started out with a meeting in Rothsay with the farmers that owned the land in Manston Slough 8 years ago, and pretty much unanimously they said, go home. We think you've got a concept here, but it's not, do it someplace else. And happy to say, after 7-8 years of persistent work down there, we got 36 easements signed voluntarily with landowners. So we got that done, and the state recognized us in 2015 for our efforts. It started with the Minnesota Environmental Initiative. Those are some heavy hitters when you go down to, say, Minneapolis. And Manston Slough won Natural Resources Project of the Year from that group. And then unbeknownst to us, and later that evening, Manston Slough then was selected the overall winner from 6 different categories as the top project in the state of Minnesota. So we were pretty proud as we drove home that night at 1:30 in the morning
As you
of
should
Manston
be.
Slough. Yeah.
Very good.
So, and as I told the board, watershed work never stops. So, we were thinking on the way home, what's going to be our next project, and that's what we're working on. Later that same year, in the fall of 2015, Manston Slough was recognized by the Minnesota Association of Watershed Districts as their top project of the year. So it was good. I think we're done winning awards now for Manston Slough, but we'll have something else coming along that hopefully will do the same. Also in 2015, I'm happy to note that Buffalo Red River Watershed District was named by the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources as their Watershed District of the Year. I know we are the only watershed district in the state of Minnesota that has won that award 3 times. So, and it's the people we work with. We have a good working relationship with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and they recognized us for that. So, work will have to continue. You can go through the report on your own and take a look at all the things we do. A lot of this gets reviewed with the advisory committee, and of course, Jenny is on our advisory committee. So, you know, we go through this on an annual basis to keep those people posted. Our big projects, we said 2015 was kind of the year of hopefully trying to get a bunch of our projects that have been around for a while. Manston Slough was finished. Last year, we were able to get Georgetown done. That's very important now that Georgetown has 100-year protection as things play out with the diversion, et cetera. Georgetown is done, and it was a great bunch of people to work with up there. We realize that that's a very small community. Historically, of course, it's your oldest community in Clay County. So Georgetown is protected now, and glad to see that done. It ended up costing about $4.5 million to accomplish that. There's going to be some work to do when we have floods. Obviously, Highway 75 did not get, you know, the road raises needed so that it provides permanent protection. That levee will not be certified, meaning those people will still have to buy flood insurance. We're also happy to report, and I think you've seen those efforts, that we did secure the $5.6 million to finish up Oakport, and that work is going on as we are here today. Initially, I think the rains kind of slowed him down a little bit, that they were hoping to be done here by Labor Day, but as that fast approaches, that project will be done yet this fall. It just amazes me when I think back from the '97 spring flood, here we are 18 years later and 19 years later and finishing the project, because it started right, and Kevin knows full well because he led the charge after that '97 spring flood, what went on up there and where we are today. So 19 years later, I say watershed work, the key word is always persistence. You just need to hang in there and keep pecking away at it. Speaking of persistence, we're happy to report now one of our next big projects, and I think it's going to be a real good one, is restoration of Wolverton Creek Comstock Coulee. In Clay County, they call it Comstock Coulee. In Wilkin County, they call it Wolverton Creek. But it's a natural waterway that comes in just south of Moorhead. We're looking at it from a water quality standpoint. The channel is, technical terms, I guess, A grading. It's full of sediment. 100 years of, plus years of farming activities out there, no one to blame, is filled the channel in. There's 5-6 feet of sediment. This project would restore 26.2 miles of natural river channel. It'll have buffers, some places 200-300 feet wide on each side. It'll be a 2-stage channel, so the water will run in a narrow meandering channel on the bottom. And when we have runoff events or floods, there'll be a broader floodplain channel that will contain the flows.
Why would the buffers be so wide, though, or just because of the out of land? Or?
Yeah, what we did, Frank, and you hear now with the new buffer laws, 50 feet, et cetera, we actually modeled the channel and said, let's look at the 2, 5, and 10-year floodplain. So when we started working with the landowners out there and said, why not put a buffer in the 2-year floodplain, meaning you got a 50-50 chance in any year of getting a crop out of there. I mean, it's lowland next to the channel, so the buffers were set based on the hydrologic modeling, not just a arbitrary width of 50 feet or 75 feet. It was based on the modeling. Right. So that's why they get wider in some places, because it's lowland next to the channel.
Okay, because you're taking a lot of land out of production there,
yeah.
Unless it's not being used for production now anyway.
Well, go back to you got a 50% chance in any given year of getting a crop, 50-50.
Yeah.
So it's some years they get a crop, some years they don't. We just picked up here in June a $2.8 million grant towards that project from the Minnesota Department or Board of Water and Soil Resources. And last night we learned that we're number 7 on the list of 45 projects with the Lessard Sams Group for Wolverton Creek, and that's $3 million. So we're expecting an interview with the Lessard people here later this month. So, you know, $3 million, it's about a $10 million project. We, you know, persistence, keep knocking on doors and promoting what you're doing. So, Wolverton Creek is a good one because obviously the cities of Fargo and Moorhead both have their raw water intakes just downstream of where that comes in. So improving water quality in Wolverton Creek will have far-reaching benefits.
I don't think there's been one like this in Minnesota. It's been this large
getting a DNR permit, that's a really a big break. And of course, we have to work with them and do certain things to make sure that this isn't going to occur again, that the sediment will be back in there, and there's a lot of other things that are being done to make sure that that doesn't happen. But
Yeah.
tremendous habitat as well.
Yeah, I guess it shows us all what buffers are all about, as we go to these buffer meetings. Why are we doing these buffers? I think there's a good reason right there.
Financially, we were down a little bit in 2015. The general concept with the watershed, and as we've met with you and you've supported us in our request for raising funding to operate the district, what we take in, we spend. And last year, we took in revenue sources were $5,383,000, and we spent $5,453,000. So that all goes back onto the landscape for natural resource enhancement, flood control, et cetera. So we're set to take in a little more than that this year because of the work ongoing up in Oakport, which right now is 100% DNR. This last phase is 100% DNR. So, that's where we're at financially. Again, you can look at the report on your own, and if you've got questions, always feel free to come and ask. We're more than happy to answer those questions. I know you've always expressed concerns, where we're at with the Red River Watershed Management Board. This spring, we did have a series of 3 landowner informational meetings to talk about flood control and financing of flood control projects. Unfortunately, I did not get to attend any of those meetings. I was in the hospital myself when they took place, but they had one in Breckenridge, one in Lake Park, and one in Barnesville. Each meeting had 40 to 50 landowners, and some very good questions. It was a real eye-opener. It was good education. The people were interested. They, understood what the board was trying to do. I don't think it's going to happen to rejoin the Red Board this year. We just don't have anything, that close in terms of flood control ready to go. But it could be a potential funding source as we move into the future, and we will continue to work along those lines. Educating our citizens. It's a tax increase, and we all know what those mean to our citizens. So we'll probably have another series of informational meetings this coming spring. You need to work with landowners, educate them, answer their questions, and that this process worked real well. We're in the process of updating our rules. You'll see more about that as time goes on. Our rules were adopted in 1979, and they're one page front and back, so they don't cover a whole lot. In fact, the word tile is not even mentioned in the rules. So we know what the influx of tiling that's taken place and continues. That will be addressed in the new rules. We'll have to hold a hearing. It gets published with all of the cities and the counties and et cetera. So that process will take 6 to 9 months here to play out, and you'll see more about that as we work in that regard. We have 3 new projects that are kind of moving forward. They happen to all kind of be in that Barnesville area. One is Stony Creek, just north of Barnesville. Parts of that were channelized in the early 1900s. The channel is woefully inadequate. It would be a comprehensive project that would have about an 8,000-acre impoundment right along Interstate 94, just northwest of Barnesville. The landowners seem to be very interested and willing to work with us in that regard. It would also have a second component that would restore the natural Stony Creek channel. It would be a 2-stage channel instead of County Ditch 31. So working on that. Directly west of Barnesville, there's an area in Barnesville Township and Alliance Township. Whiskey Creek is there, another one of our channels that was straightened back in the early 1900s. There's an unnamed tributary that's DNR protected waters that runs into Whiskey Creek. We'd restore that channel and also look at about an 8,000-acre impoundment directly west of Barnesville. So moving forward with that, and then starting at the Clay-Wilkin County line and going south, kind of a phase 1, something on the south branch of the Buffalo River. And in fact, we have an agency meeting next Tuesday to talk about a phase 1A of that project that would restore the south branch of the Buffalo River east of Highway 9. That was straightened in the late 1800s. So we have a natural river channel that's still on the landscape, but we're running the water in a county ditch system a half-mile north and a half-mile south of the natural channel. So it makes sense, and the landowners support putting the river back into its original channel, which will slow down the flows coming out of that area, create all kinds of natural resource benefits, and I think that's something that could move forward here fairly quickly. Buffers, Frank was at a meeting last Thursday, I believe, in Detroit Lakes. You know, the new buffer law is upon us. It's going to happen. There's some things that have to get done here. Dates coming up, they're March 31st of 2017 and November 1st of 2017. We have all of the ditches, of course, in Clay, Wilkin, and Becker County. We've taken a systematic approach starting at the northern end of our boundary, which is up in the Felton area. We're going to just go right through them, and those that don't have the one rod grass buffer strip get it put on there. So from a ditch system standpoint, we hope to meet the November 1st, 2018 deadline. We have 95 systems to do. So, but we'll get those buffered. The SWCD, of course, will be working on the protected waters, the 50-foot buffer on the protected waters. And then something we'll need to talk about with you is where do we go with this enforcement?
Yeah, that was on my list today,
Yeah.
Very good.
You know, when I talked to my board a little bit last night, that could be the county, it could be the watershed district, it can't be the SWCD. So where do we go with that? You know, for Buffalo Red, I think we need a uniform policy. We can't have Becker County doing one thing, Clay County doing something else, Wilkin County totally different. And the ditch system, since we have to inspect them annually, we're the ditch authority. I think from that standpoint, to me, it just makes sense that the ditches and the enforcement of the ditches and the buffers stays with the watershed. I mean, we handle the ditches, we're out there. Why have somebody else driving behind us going, well, there's a buffer that, you know, has been encroached on. So if we end up with the ditches, which might be 60% or 70% of the work anyway, maybe the protected waters, again, but that's something we're going to have to discuss with each county, and hopefully we come out with a uniform policy based on what you as commissioners want to see us.
Right. Especially when you see, like you said, these beautiful buffers that are slowly looking like this, and there's spray drift, you know, that it's something that is happening, and there are landowners that are respecting that, but I think we don't want to have buffers that end up being lots of weeds either, so it's a tricky spot.
Well, and then I've worked with some of the county auditors and assessors and recorders, and where you take these buffers, if you actually have something that you can record, then obviously they can take it off the taxes in terms of being cropland, and so it's, you know, it's going to take some work. Even you know, to put on a one rod grass buffer strip on the ditches, you go, well, that shouldn't be that hard. Well, you need to start with the county, and you got to get the files and research what they did in 1895, which may or may not be clear, and of course they didn't buy enough right away back then. The ditch is using way more, so then you need to go out and get it surveyed and tie it into the section corners. Record those corners for the county now, so you've got those all recorded. Then work with the landowners to say how much additional do we need to buy, go through the hearing process to make that happen, write the checks, and get it seeded and maintain it. So times 95. So that'll keep us busy for a while. You know, last but not least, obviously, is to thank Clay County. The numbers speak for themselves. We truly recognize where the dollars come from. I mean, it does come from Wilkin, Becker, and Otter Tail, but the greater share, 2/3 of it, comes out of Clay County. That's just the way the tax base is set up. So we thank you for your past support. We'll be here again after we hold our budget hearing on the 22nd of August, to talk about where we might go in 2017 regarding finances, and again, appreciate your support.
Okay.
Grant.
Yeah, Bruce and Terry, thanks it's a great report. You know, given what you just said, Bruce, I guess my question is, I'd like to hear why the board chose not to participate in the Diversion Authority Board. You know, given that, you know, 2/3 of the funding comes from Clay County, the vast majority of that out of the city of Moorhead, and to not have a place at the table, you know, when one was offered, I mean, to me is just unthinkable for the citizens of Moorhead. And to me, that means that Moorhead is being grossly underrepresented on this board. So I guess I'd like to hear why they chose not to participate.
I'll take the first shot at that because obviously I don't vote, so I can maybe summarize as to what they were talking about and thinking at the time. It was a 6-1 vote to not sign the new JPA. As we went through that, I know some of you had come down. You were, had presented testimony at the meeting as to why we should probably be involved. Mr. Berg was there, et cetera. We just felt that I think that the JPA, A, had too many unanswered questions, and B, probably set too much of a, this is what you're going to do, here's when you're going to do it, here's how you're going to do it, and last but not least, oh, by the way, if you don't do it that way, we're going to kick you off. Mr. Whalen, I don't know what the future holds. I mean, as I drove up here this morning, I thought, we may still be involved with the diversion at some point in time. Who knows where this is all going to go in the next 2 to 5 to 10 years. If there's a role for the watershed to play, I think that this board or future boards will look at what job we can play with that role. For this point in time, 2016, we just decided that it wasn't a fit for us. Too many unanswered questions. It was really sign here and we'll get to that later. Trust us, we'll deal with that 2, 5, and 10 years down the road, but just sign here. And that is my summary, but I'll let our chair, Mr. Van Amberg.
Well, it's a tough one to answer. Obviously, I didn't agree with it, but I think probably the objection, some of them had at least, was looking at it and seeing what was going to be required, and particularly when it comes to acquiring easements and getting the land that is going to be required in Minnesota. We're uncomfortable with that and didn't want to take on that responsibility really. So I think that's the reason some of them probably went the way that they did. Others on the board, I think, obviously we have in our district a good deal of representation from the upstream area, and the upstream area people are against it. And they certainly wield a lot of influence too. So I think that we disagreed with it. I disagreed with it. But as I think about it, we are a board. We have to function as a board. We have to, I think, accept those decisions and go ahead and do what we can do and do the best we can do with what we have. And that's where we're at now. So I think there, as Bruce says, there's probably things down the road that we're going to be involved with, certainly.
Well, I think probably, very important to note is that life has went on for the Buffalo Red River Watershed District over the last 2 or 3 years regarding the diversion. We always seem to be the last. I mean, the 5 entities would approve something and then Buffalo Red would be the last and we would end up with 40, 30, 20 people at our meetings from North Dakota and all over going, well, you need to make a decision. And I mean, I think as you know, as leaders in Clay County, it's never fun to be between a rock and a hard spot, and we were constantly in that position. And what happened, of course, after the board voted to not be a part of this particular JPA is the next morning the sun come up and the birds were singing and life goes on. And I don't think our actions has slowed down the development of the diversion either. And I don't know, I think you'd be hard pressed even on our board to find someone that says Fargo-Moorhead doesn't need some type of permanent flood control. I mean, I always liken it, what good does it do to win the battles if you're going to lose the war at the end of the day? Too many times people get caught, well, Moorhead is protected. Well, no, Moorhead has lots of holes in their line of defense and it provides protection for a 100-year flood. You got to look at the facts. So Again, I don't think our actions have really slowed things down. It might have made each of our lives a little bit easier for the time being, and what role we'll play into the future, we'll see.
I think our board is probably vulnerable to a lot more external influence and pressure than maybe the other entities were. You know, Bruce mentioned we got a lot of people that come to the meetings and really just be dead set against it, and even North Dakota people, and that were trying to tell us how to do things. So it's.
Well, like I said, the problem I've got is that the vast majority of the funding comes out of Clay County and from the vast majority of that from the city of Moorhead, and to not be represented in a project that's the biggest project probably in the country, I mean, to me, doesn't make any sense at all. And so to me, it's a matter of the people we've got representing Moorhead, and, you know, at least my position is that should change and as soon as possible, so.
Wayne?
A little different. On page 6, lobbyist Joel Carlson, is that our former state representative from Moorhead?
Correct, sir.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to go back to your report, Bruce, and you talked about the project in Georgetown. And I remember going up there and helping them, trying to get on the right path to doing that project as well. So the project is complete, and I thank the watershed for taking the lead on that one as well. But Highway 75, is that the only portion that prevents it from being certified?
No. Highway 100 going north too. I don't think that's.
Yeah, well, there'd be 2 openings in Highway 75. There's one going east on your county road that goes over to Felton. Why can't I say that number?
Yeah.
There's one there, and then there is a Texas crossing in town, which would have to be a temporary closure during a flood. There was an effort, Commissioner, a couple of years ago, led by some of the other mayors, Purley, Halsted, Hendrum, those highways along Highway 75, to try to get state funding because they're all faced with the exact same situation. They have to come in and do temporary closures on Highway 75. So we, through our lobbyists, Mr. Carlson, et cetera, keep our finger on that pulse, and if other cities should try to get MnDOT to do those road raises, we would want to see the same for Georgetown, because then you could certify that levy.
Okay, so you're leading right in, perfectly leading into the road raise that it would take for Georgetown. Would it have to be a road raise completely through the town, or would it be similar to like what was done on County Road 22 in the Oakport project, where you'd have one end up and then another end on the other side?
Yeah, I know.
Have you looked at that?
Yeah, we have looked at that. I think for Georgetown, the numbers were a couple of years ago maybe, and don't recall exactly here, $1.5 million to make that happen. And it would just be road raises where the levee crosses Highway 75.
So it would be an up and a down and up and a down then?
But designed to MnDOT specification.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that part. It's not like you're going to go up, go flying 80 feet.
Duke's a hazard on Highway 75.
No, I understand that part, but the reason that I ask, and I'm wondering if you could, based on the work that the watershed did, if you could provide me with the research that you did in terms of what it would cost to do that at Georgetown on that Highway 75. I still do have some concerns in that area in the event that, or not, as far as I'm concerned, not in the event, when the diversion is complete. It obviously goes there, and I think it would be in our best interest to make sure that that community is completely taken care of, and if that means getting those road raises as part of the project, then we should be doing that. And so I'd like to have some information that I could take to the technical people working on that, especially if you, I don't want to reinvent the wheel, if you guys did some work on it already.
The report is done, and I'll have it to you before the end of the day.
Okay, very good. And then on the, I'm going to reserve my comments. I share the comments that Commissioner Whalen said. I think that's pretty obvious how I feel about that. But I want to go back to the projects of Stony Creek and Whiskey Creek, do both those go into the Buffalo?
They go into the south branch of the
South
Buffalo,
branch
yes.
of the Buffalo, okay. And, was there ever determined that there would be benefit to the Red River Valley on those areas, right?
In fact, they got some funding.
So did those applications go before funding through the
Yes,
Diversion Authority?
And we have funding for all three projects
Yeah,
from the Diversion Authority.
The preliminary, there was.
Yep.
Okay, all right, okay, all right, good, okay. I guess that wasn't mentioned, and I wanted to
Bring that up. Yes,
make
thank
sure
you for
that
noting.
was- make sure that was also brought up, that there's funding for your projects by the Diversion Authority. Okay. And so that included that 10-acre impoundment or whatever, you got funding on that part too, right?
Yes, yeah, 10,000 acres.
10,000 acres.
10,000, yeah, 10,000, yeah. Good, that's all I have.
Okay. Any other further comments?
I just want to thank the watershed for the good work that you continue to do. I have had several times where residents have called me with concerns, and I've met a member from your staff or one of your managers out at the property, and you're always very available and approachable to our citizens, and I think that's really important. But I think also you talked about the watershed district of the year and the project of the year, but there's also a manager or a director of the year, and I want to congratulate you. I know that you have an immense amount of knowledge, and I want to thank you for the work that you do for our counties.
Well, we are starting to look at transition. Retirement for me is off in the somewhat distant future, but the next several years here. And one of my goals will be to ensure that whoever my replacement is, that this same work and to the same degree of quality will continue. So we are looking at that at the present time.
Mr. Chairman, were you done?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I do also want to thank the watershed, and in particular, because you being on there so long, on going back to 1997, I think you were one of the first calls that Bruce Langness and I made when he talked about the Oakport flood project. The night of the peak of that flood, I tell this story a few times. Bruce Langness and I were sitting in my kitchen at 2 o'clock in the morning, drawing on literally on napkins, ways to, that's because everything else was packed away. Trying to draw up how we could prevent this from ever happening again, and that was the start of it. And then we shortly after, but I do want to, I saw in your book here, and I was glad to see there was a memoriam for Roger, and I remember Roger coming to many of those meetings, and actually, as the board chair, he ran those meetings on all those, and they were big meetings when we had a lot of people from Oakport on that project there. And I want to take this time to acknowledge the work he did on. Obviously, he did work on a lot of projects from his time being on there, from '72 to 2013. He did a lot of projects, but that one certainly, as we see by the end of probably the end of September or so, it's going to have an impact on an entire. At one time, Oakport was population-wise was close to the population of Dilworth. So it's like another large city in our county, and so the work that was done there, but. And Jerry, I think you sat
room to grow out
through the
there
whole
too,
thing,
no?
and it's good to see.
Back at the old gun club.
Yeah, that's where we had those meetings.
Yeah, I just remember in 79 driving through, or 97 driving through there on a Saturday and talking to one of the engineers at Houston, and I think my words were, "Oh my God," because backhoes were sitting in people's yards, just digging up their yards and dumping dirt around the house, and that's because I'd been out working the flood about a week prior to that, but those were my words. "Oh my God, I can't believe this," and then it happened. So.
That was one that the Army Corps, we tried to have the Army Corps do it, and that was one that it didn't meet the cost-benefit ratio, and it would be unfair to not thank the state of Minnesota, too, for
Well, we may have to have a little celebration when Oak Cliff gets done, because there's been a lot of people, and you and Greg Anderson and Mr. Langness and all of, to bring that project to completion. It took a lot of work on everybody's behalf to make that happen, so.
And we found out that Greg still has old emails, goes with this, so it's good to know. They were recently used.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well, thank you for your report,
I'd
Bruce
like
and Jerry.
to certainly say thank you to all the commissioners, and Commissioner Ingersoll, I understand that you're retiring as a commissioner,
Done December 31st.
so thank you for your service and help that you've given.
You will be getting notice here probably in the next week, 10 days, about a fall tour scheduled for Thursday, September 8th. Always a chance to get out and look at some new projects, et cetera, so that'll be the afternoon of Thursday, September 8th. Look for a notice.
Should be warmer yet. Will be.
Thank you.
Thanks.
With that, we'll go into a budget review with Mr. Steve Larson. Yes.
80 and 81 pages. They're
Okay.
very last.
The pages 80 and 81 in your, must have a big budget, it's got 2 pages.
Well, I do think it's good maybe before we jump into to my 2 budgets, is just kind of give a good time, one time a year, to kind of just do a refresher. While we're located in one building, we do actually have 2 separate budgets over at our facility. One is the secure detention facility, which is a 30-bed cooperative service agreement program. And essentially what we do there each year is establish our expenses, look at the number of beds. We do a bed selling program or a bed purchasing program. And our member counties purchase beds based on their average usage over a recent period of time. And then that bed purchase plan is established, and that's how we finish out our budget. And so the other piece is our non-secure program, which is a Clay County program, and so no different than the auditor's office, highway in that way, from the standpoint that the funds that come there are all from the general reserve, where in detention, Clay County purchases a certain number of beds, and so do our other members. And so I think it's important for that, I guess, when I come for a different project during the year, say we have a $100,000 project, 67% of the project is covered by the secure budget, and 33% of that is covered by the non-secure budget, which would be general reserve funds. And so I think that's good for us just to kind of talk a little bit about during the time once a year, just so everybody, when I come in, it helps hopefully clear that out. So, in taking a look at this year's budget, if we would start with the 30-bed secure program, I think that when we look at our revenues and our expenses, we don't have a great deal of difference in a lot of our line items. And when we take a look at our revenues this year, we are looking at total selling of beds, at least right now, of 28.625 of our 30 beds are being sold. For 2017, based on an increase in population, we would be looking for Clay County to purchase an additional 2 beds. Historically, Clay County has purchased 7 beds, and we've had the discussion last year at this meeting whether or not Clay County should look at purchasing additional, and we waited till this year. I guess we pushed it to this year, and this year I would be requesting, part of my second piece would be having Clay County purchase an additional 2 beds. Right now, Clay County is averaging just under 10 kids per day in the facility. This morning we had 11 of our 22 kids were from Clay County, and last month we averaged 13.65 kids a day just from Clay County alone. And so both in our secure and non-secure program, we certainly have seen a spike in the usage for our for Clay County. And so other revenues, we have our other 10 member counties, nine other beside Clay in Minnesota, and then Cass County of North Dakota. Again, like I said, we mentioned, we've kind of put out our requests for this year. We've had some, or for next year, we've had some counties that have already got back to us. We have about half of our counties that have not gotten back to us yet, but will probably be by the end of this month. And so we're projecting again, the selling of 28.625 beds. And we also have additional revenues from rent that we rent both juvenile probation for Clay County and the DOC, Minnesota Department of Corrections, probation department of roughly $36,000. New this year is miscellaneous revenue, Benson Psychological Services. We're acting as a pass-through for our counties for the payments for Benson, and so that's a new line item for 2017. And we also have reimbursements, miscellaneous reimbursements, and a lot of that is coming from our National School Lunch Program. And so if the board were to approve the purchasing of additional 2 beds for Clay County, we would be looking at revenues of roughly $2,479,342. If we take a peek at our expenses, again, I think I have highlighted kind of the 3 main areas that would probably draw your attention to my budget. Part-time salary section, we had an increase. Part of that is due to a COLA, but we also have added some additional hours per the request of our advisory board. Some of the kids that we're seeing within our facility are quite challenging. There's been a number of placements, I think, that we've spoken in the past that have closed throughout the state, and we're starting to see kids who generally stayed with us for 2-3 days until they went on to their next placement are now staying with us for 2 to 3 months. We're getting to see some different issues, and so our advisory board requested this year that we provide some additional help and hours to our full-time staff to deal with some of those kids, to ensure that our program can run appropriately, and so there's some additional hours that are built in there. Other professional services, we have quite an increase there, and that's based on basically 2 things. Of course, potential increases to our vendors who we currently use, Lakeland Mental Health, Lutheran Social Services in North Dakota, those types of things. But we also pay our nursing out of here, out of this budget. We recently, in this year, had to add another 16 hours of nursing to cover the increased population that we have. And so that's going to reflect in this budget. And we also had a maintenance position who had been with us for 19 years close and retire, and so we moved that from regular salaries down into other professional services because we just contract hours with through Georgia. And then our other piece is as you guys know, we've been with Julie Savat and Troy Amundsen from Detox have been here talking about prisoner board. We've had some issues as far as the cost of our meals going up, and so we're hoping certainly that we're going to be able to provide a vendor that's going to not increase as much as that we potentially looked at, and we're hoping that we have some ideas there. But we'll be opening that up this fall, and so we're hoping that we'll see a significant savings there. And so if you go down the rest of the line items, they're very similar to where we've been in the previous budget. So one thing that I do have as a request, a new request in both, it's a combined position both for secure and non-secure. Essentially, it would be a counseling position that would be essentially their main duties would be training new employees, both part-time and full-time, and also we have requirements in the facility of ongoing training that our staff have to do each year, and we maintain a lot of those different trainings. And for the most part, for the last 6 years, I've been trying to maintain that as we've gained staff and gotten bigger. It's become a much larger animal. And I think the other piece that we've run into is as we've lost our employees that have been here for 20-25 years, and we're bringing new employees on, what we're finding is that my favorite saying has become common sense is no longer common. So when these new employees are starting, we're having to, what was an entry-level knowledge is now not quite as knowledgeable. And so we're finding that we're having to put a great deal of time, more time into that initial training period to help them. And we lack, with our increased numbers, now we're trying to do the training on shift. And so if we have 3 court hearings in Clay County, Fergus Falls, and Becker County, that person on training oftentimes gets pushed aside. And so we certainly are aware that we're trying to keep things as low as we can, but I certainly think when we look at, we've been trying to track our part-time staff as far as length of stay, that initial money that we put into them. Initially we were tracking, years, and now we're tracking months and days with those new employees. And so, say if it costs $1,500 for a new employee, last year we hired 28 part-time staff in secure only because we had people leave. And so the hope would be is that this position would again take care of those basic mandatory trainings for the DOC, but it will also provide a better base for us, a better training program, so we would have hopefully employees who are going to stay with us at a longer period of time and not spend the money. It doesn't show up in here. I don't have 28 employees that I'm training in. I have about 6, and so if we can keep half of those staff, we certainly could pay for a good chunk of that position. So that would be my new request for this year. And that it would be combined, again, 67% secure, 33% non-secure. So, anybody have any questions or comments on the secure budget?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I may, before he advances to the non-secure, just for simplicity's sake, is that, and Steve has described it very well, that this is part of a 11-county group. And what he is requesting from Clay County is, if you go to that top line on your revenue side, the dollars that he is requesting goes from $566,000 to $584 for the 7 beds, and then he's asking for an additional $167,000 for 2 additional beds. Am I right, Steve?
That's correct.
And so you're going to be seeing in the 30-bed secure unit an increase of just about $200,000 for juvenile. So when we start talking about the large increases in our levy, about $200,000 is for the increase for the 30-bed secure unit.
Correct.
Is that a fair summary?
That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted them to be perfectly clear on that aspect.
Okay.
Yeah, the very last line item, the capital improvements, $107,716. What's that for?
That was part of the establishment when Fargo came over, when we started looking at, our roof project. We have an elevator that's going to need to be redone for about $100,000. We have a basement project. Our heating and cooling system, about $75,000. We have a simplex board, about $54,000. And so what we did when North Dakota came on board, we took a portion of that and established the capital improvements, so we would be able to have money to do those projects. And that was with the uncertainty of how long Fargo was going to be with us. We saw that as an opportunity to utilize some of those funds to take care of some of those larger projects.
And those projects haven't been done yet.
Correct. Just the roof was done this year, but the other ones we're working on. I know Joe has them as a part of the master plan for the county. So,
Do we have an overall dollar amount that we've established for the capital improvement needs for that facility for the next 5 years?
I worked with Joe on that. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we have worked with Joe on that.
Yeah, we do, and I don't recall what the numbers are either.
Can we get those?
Sure.
All right, I'll move on to the non-secure program. Again, last year we've been extremely busy. In 2015, we turned down over 105 placements. Through June of this year, we'd already turned down 105 placements for non-secure programming. we've seen an uptick in the usage of Clay County here also. So when we take a look at our revenues, our budget is based off 12 kids per day. And our non-secure Clay usage is about 6.25 kids per day. Our non-member counties, we're counting on 5.75 kids per day. And our non-secure program, we have 4 different programs. We have a non-secure detention. We have a consequence program. We have a 30-day evaluation program. And we have a low-level sex offender program. And so we're... So we broke it down. And basically we're averaging over 13 kids a day right now. We're busting at the seams. I think this morning we actually had 16 out of 15, which is not good. But it has been extremely busy, and so we've adjusted the expectations from Clay County have certainly gone up. Right now we're averaging about 7 kids a day for Clay County, but we've seen as many as 12 to 13 kids a day of our 15 as Clay County this year. And in talking with Rhonda Porter and Shelley Ford, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like this is going to be a trend that's going to stop.
Does this go up during the summer, or?
Historically, we're busy in June, and we slow down kind of in July and August. We haven't, in non-secure, we haven't been under 11 and a half kids for 2.5 years. So we've been almost at over 13 every month in 2016. So that's been quite a challenge. Again, we have our same rental revenue for those probation departments. We have miscellaneous reimbursements that we receive both, and again, Benson Psychological Services is also added in there, and then we have our interfund transfer, and those are our revenues. So we have total revenues projected of $1,264,955. Anybody have any questions on that portion? If not, oh, sorry.
I was, the non-secure, so when we get a number given to us by social services that they've got 180 kids a day in out-of-home placement,
right,
that number would include the kids in your non-secure?
From our most recent meeting, I think the answer is no. I don't think that does.
So this is over and above what we have in
right,
out-of-home placements. Okay.
Right, and so I guess to clarify from what Brian had mentioned earlier, based on that increase, we would be looking to increase about another $90,000 in usage for Clay County, and that would be underestimating what we're actually using right now. So, but we would be seeing an increased request in the tax levy from that. So, any other questions? And again, I think expense-wise, we've seen are staying as flat as we can there. We've had some retirements, and so our full-time salaries actually went down a little bit last year. So we kind of had a wash in salaries with 3% increases. Our main point here is again looking at other professional services. We had about $19,000 increase there, and again that was partially entitled to our nurse, our increases with Lakeland Mental Health, Lutheran Social Services, and our maintenance contract. And again, we've also seen the room and board also saw an increase, which again, hopefully we will see that decrease with a positive new contract. So. Anybody have any questions at all there? And again, like I said, we would be looking at our new request would be roughly $22,000 for that would be attributed to Clay County or the new addition, for the total amount of that position.
Okay. Any questions, further questions there?
Well, Steve does an excellent job. This is a complex operation he's running here, and
Thank you.
we did, you know, some of the issues we've got going at budget time. We met with Cass County Sheriff yesterday and the county administrator, and I think we had a good meeting and hopefully got some things worked out with them. The food, you know, issue is, for you and the jail, is an important issue right now, and they've brought up some interesting things, you know, from their perspective and what they're using, so we'll be looking at that too in the future. So hopefully we can have a positive impact on the budget request here from that, so.
Yes. And then if you know, there's no other questions about the budget, I do have, I think I had a contract for 2017 bed purchasing on the board agenda for today. So again, I would be requesting that Clay County move from 7 beds to 9 beds at a total cost of $751,500.
So moved.
Any further discussion on that?
Well, I'm going to support it, but I think like every other department who we've seen their preliminary budget presentations, you know, we're signing a contract to purchase nine beds, and I'm not sure if the ultimate cost will end up being what you're saying today, but I think we need to, you know, we need to scrutinize every line item of every department's budget. I have some additional questions that can come later. They don't need to be today, but I do believe that we should be doing the 9 beds. Now, whether the final cost actually ends up being the $83,000 per
Right.
bed
Yep.
is yet to be determined as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion to purchase the increase from 7 beds to 9 beds. Any further discussion? Call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Mr. Green. We're working on accepted bid for the master's purchase agreement for the Motorola Corporation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Remember Brian Zaffable from our dispatch center, he's our radio coordinator. He also was going to join us for the fun. Remember 2 weeks ago, we had the sealed bids opened by your board. The bids were accepted, opened. We did review the bids. Of course, we only had one bid from the Motorola Corporation. We did review some of the standard language that they had in there and reviewed the pricing. And it looks to me, Brian, and you can tell me if I'm different, I think it's like a 40% discount we got by putting it together all in one bid. Now this is a bid for the mobiles and portable radios for all law enforcement and public safety entities in Clay County. The bid come to $2.1 million, and our first estimate was $2.5 million. So it was quite a bit reduction by putting it all together in one bid.
Okay.
So what we're looking at today is basically to accept that bid and then assign a purchase agreement. We took out, in their bid specification, they had a, let me find it here. They had a communications product agreement. We talked to Motorola and said that we are not agreeing to that because then they actually want Clay County to be on the hook for that $2.1 million. Well, that's not what the bid actually was for. It was just to give us a pricing on the amount of equipment that we were going to get for all of Clay County. So they came back with a purchase agreement. That purchase agreement we received, I sent to Jenny. Jenny reviewed it, and she agreed that there was nothing wrong with it, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Okay, so today, basically, I'm just asking for the accept the bid and then sign that purchase agreement.
And Mr. Chair, just for clarification, that purchase agreement allows all Clay County law enforcement or emergency service agencies to purchase the equipment at that price. So each agency would purchase their own. It's kind of an interesting setup. So it's essentially a guaranteed price for, by unit, by the equipment. But then all Clay County entities will receive that pricing.
And again, a comparison off the state bid, that's what we went off for the equipment. This is 20% actually better than what we get out the state contract.
So with each unit then have to, in addition to 2.1 million, they'd have to pay more than to get their equipment?
No, no, we're not.
2.1 million?
Yeah.
So we would charge them for what they get?
Everyone will pay their own.
They'll pay their own, correct, yes.
And adding up, it will be 2.1 million.
Yes, yep. If they buy all that equipment, that's basically what it's gonna come off. Motorola had to have a set amount numbers to be able to put that bid together.
So if the other entities agree to this, or do we have to get their agreement on this, or?
They've all, since we went to the Armor project, we had to tell them exactly how many radios that they were gonna plan on purchasing. So they all agreed and gave us that number, and that's what we went off.
Okay, thank you.
One additional note with this is what we did is the purchasing price is valid for 1 year. So as Brian mentioned, for the entities, we've been very proactive in letting them know about this. The quantities of radios, we actually got those quantities from them. So they had the pricing to begin with, so they could incorporate it into their own, municipal budgets or agency budgets and so on. So once this is signed and approved, the pricing will be valid for a year. So that allows the flexibility, for folks if they don't have the monies here in 2016, early 2017 or whatever it might be.
Well, I guess I was just concerned that everybody's going through budget now, that they're aware that they're gonna have to spend this money.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, they are well aware of it.
All right.
So say an entity purchases these radios, how do they go about then the programming piece? Do they recoup?
That is part of the bid. So
Okay.
there's a program price in there. Once we get finished with this, and if you approve everything now, the logistics part was going to be the nightmare. Basically, we're going to have to sit down with everybody and along with the vendor and figure out, okay, how are we going to order these, and then how are we going to get them installed, and then how are we going to get them programmed in kind of a timely fashion and an order fashion, because if everybody orders them at one time, there's no way they're going to be able to get them all installed and programmed and trained at the same time.
Because I think that was a concern that I've heard from Save and Fire, that the programming cost was not something that they had planned for, and so they're concerned about how, they spent the money to get the radios to comply, but there's an excess.
I can chime in on that. The original budget, even when it was developed with the participation plan, programming was actually, it was a turnkey price, so it was not only the radio price based upon state contract, but some other normal things that were required. It'd be like buying a car without tires. The programming is needed.
Mm-hmm.
So that budgetary pricing was incorporated at that time. And this is the same in the RFP response and the proposal is the programming was incorporated in. So as Brian mentioned.
Part of, again, we asked their quantity, they'd say 5 portables. Well, we gave them a price and that 5 portables that included that. So it was already there. So, and now we get another 20% off of each item. So, that's going to be a savings for them no matter which way you look at it. Does that make sense, Jim? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the proposed bid from Motorola Corporation and sign the master purchase agreement.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Go ahead. Looks like you're gonna be busy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Board.
Good work.
Thank you, everybody.
With that, we go to the recorder, Diane. Looking to fill a position.
Hi, good morning. I've had a resignation of a deputy recorder that's been in our office over 12 years.
So the good news is she's transferring to another department in Clay County, so we're not losing her experience. But I would like to fill this existing position. It has been budgeted for 2016 and also in my 2017 budget. It will, on paper, it'll save $7,800 for 2016, but someone who's been in our department 12 years, it takes quite a while to learn all of the stuff.
Sure. Are you looking to backfill in case somebody within applies?
It's deputy recorder, so I don't think we would be able to backfill
Okay.
us.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve what's in front of us from Diane.
I'll second the motion with a question. You stated that you could have a difficult time meeting because of mandate compliance.
If it wasn't approved,
Oh, okay.
because we have so many days
Okay.
that we
All
have
right.
to do a real estate to share the compliance dollars. So.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
With that, we go on to, looks like Justin's here today to fill the correctional officer.
Good morning.
Good morning, Justin.
Here to get a full-time correctional officer vacancy filled. Our half-time reintegration advanced planning / half-time out-of-county housing officer has turned in her letter of resignation. She's moving on to a job with the Department of Corrections across the street. What we're looking to do is her position was more of a job assignment. We're looking to post internally to have, see if there's any interest within our staff for her job duties. And at that time, if there is, do a hiring kind of an interview process to determine who we believe is the best candidate. At that time, we'll pull them off a shift, and then we'll have to backfill their position or fill their position because they'll be pulled off of the staffing plan that the Department of Corrections has provided us to fill that position. She's been with the department for, like I said, 8 years. She's been doing the reintegration in out of county, I believe, for about 2 years. She's done amazing things with the reintegration advanced planning. I think she's doubled the numbers that we've done in the past years, and it's kind of unfortunate that we're losing her. It was kind of a blindsided thing, but we're hoping that we have some good candidates internally that want to and can continue doing the good things that she's done with the program. It really has helped out having this reintegration, not only the reintegration, the halftime out of county. As the board is well aware, we are bursting at the seams over there. We just added a fifth county to house inmates in. We're now housing in Wright County, and we're looking to maybe add a sixth into Crow Wing County, just because of our population numbers. So this reintegration helps keep those inmates out of jail. I think, I don't have her exact numbers, but when I talked to her earlier this year, last year, she had put somewhere around 80 inmates through this program. Of those 80 inmates, you could count on two hands the number of people that have returned. And some of those that have returned have been very short stays. So it really does benefit the county to continue to support this reintegration program. I think in the future, we'll be looking to maybe make this a full-time position with the new facility, but that's yet to be seen into the future here.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the fill of the full-time correction officer vacancy.
I'll second.
Is there going to be some backfill in this then? What were you talking about? You're looking to find someone within?
Yeah, we're looking to find someone within to fill her position, and then at that time, we'll have to either look to hire or promote a part-time roster to a full-time position, or look externally if we don't have any interested candidates at that time.
Would that be part of our motion, or is that a separate one?
Yeah, no, that's, it's fine.
Same motion,
Yeah,
okay.
same thing.
Very good. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
I think that with that, we'll take on the addendum item, Joe. There's a hot water heater, heating loop, heat exchanger. It's a long one here now.
Good morning.
Good morning, Joe.
Late last week, we had the heat exchanger in the Family Service Center, this unit down in the tunnel, go bad on us, and basically this is a main key component of our system for our heating in the Family Service Center. So I've gotten 2 bids here, one from Robert Gibbs and another one from Dakota Plains Mechanical. Robert Gibbs came in at $19,000 and Dakota Plains came in at $23,897. So I would be comfortable going with Robert Gibbs for this, to replace this. It's a 6-week lead time for this, and we're fine now, but I'd like to get this ordered quick and installed here.
Mr. Chair, it says both quotes exclude abasement of asbestos if necessary. What does that usually run? Or,
It's this
minimal?
Yeah, very minimal, probably $150 or so.
Okay, but it,
Yep.
okay.
I just put that in there because it could be.
This had to be done before it even came to committee.
Yep.
Any other question?
I have a question in regards, you mentioned the equipment repair and maintenance budget. Does that budget balance support this request?
Yes, currently right now, we're at we're budgeted at $125,000 and we've spent $37,000. So we usually can take one of these surprises, I guess we call them. But typically these heat exchangers or this type of a project usually does come through the capital improvement, but this one kind of snuck up on it. We thought we had a few more years on this one. So.
Is this one of the 97 heat exchangers we have, or?
No, we have 3-4 of them around the county here, so they're, this one's from the early 70s, they last a long time, and they're kind of tough to gauge, the condition of them, because you can't really take them apart, but we only have 3 or 4 of these around, so.
Okay.
But I'll be taking a look at the other ones too, and seeing the condition, and seeing if I can get them on the plan as well, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So move the request, including any asbestos overcharge that comes in with this.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thanks for getting me in.
Yep.
Thank you.
Now with that, we'll go into the request to rezone. The acquired properties we've got to the north here, 2 blocks, or 1 block that we've got to the north. We're looking to rezone that. Mr. Berg will handle that.
Well, Mr. Chair, good morning. You pretty much have with your description. Thank you, other commissioner members too, for allowing the time on this today. What is taking place here is, and I think Commissioner Campbell has referred to this before, about the rezoning that will allow more flexibility for our parking and the setbacks and different things along that line. So what we have done is, Tim Magnuson is not here available today, but he has filled out the application for the city to apply for the rezoning of the western block. And that's what you see before you today. And what I've mentioned in the memo is also the eastern block will need to be applied for as well. And there's a small fee that goes along with this, but we just felt that this needed to be board approved to go ahead and change the zoning for county property. So what we're asking of you today is for approval to proceed with the application for rezoning for both parcels, even though we're just pushing one forward right now. The reason why we're pursuing one right now is because of ownership. We do not have the title on 4 of the properties on the eastern block. We will be getting those soon. And then once we get that property in our ownership, we will apply for the eastern block as well. So
Mr. Chairman? Brian, yeah, because that was my question, why didn't we just do this all in one?
Yeah.
And, you know, even though we don't have the ownership, would they have to sign that?
Yes, they would.
And why wouldn't they sign it?
Well, I'm sure they would, but this is kind of time sensitive. We need to get started on this.
Okay, are these people a long ways away? They're just...
Oh, no, they're not a long ways away.
Okay.
I think if there was any pushback, you would
There.
eat up time that you need to have in order to get it done.
That's exactly right. And if you are then involving other people that are still living there that have to sign off on it, and you have a public hearing, it just opens more doors for the possibility. We did talk about this, and Mike Love from Houston Engineer recommended that we do it in 2 stages. Or maybe he asked if we wanted to do it in stages. I shouldn't put words in his mouth, but he was pursuing this for us, and we had a discussion about seeking it in 2 different applications, and we felt it would be better with consultation with Mike Love from Houston Engineering. So. And in fact, when the application was filled out, we still didn't know if we were going to have ownership of that one property. So, I mean, that just happened last Friday, so I guess maybe that's...
Cutting her pretty close there.
It was cutting her pretty close.
Very good. Okay, we got a request here to apply for the zoning amendment.
It's something that needs to be done per your committees, so I'll make a motion to approve the request.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Well, and one additional thing, it requires no board action, but it's just an update, and I'll hand it out. This is the update on the property purchased of those 2 blocks. And if you'll notice, the top block is the east block, and you'll see now just 4 light green parcels in there. That's because we have purchase agreements on all of those properties. The light green is the ones we have purchase agreements without closing, the others we have closed on. And then the west block, you will see the dark green, that is the one we have ownerships on. And then there are 2 on there that are red, that they will be staying in their residence. And just one other point that we talked about when we started down this process, we figured the valuation of the properties that we were buying, we'd be spending about $3 million. And as you can see, to date, with these purchase agreements, we are at $2.96 million out of the 3. Now, there's other costs that are involved in this. We've done appraisals, we've done asbestos inspections, we've done asbestos abatements, and then now you've also approved the demolition. We looked at the demolition as being additional dollars from the purchase of the property. So we're pretty much on schedule as far as the dollars that you had looked at for this acquiring the property. So that's just for information's sake. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right.
Thank you.
With that, we'll go on to committee reports. Kevin?
Okay. Last week, as all of us did, we attended the city county meeting at the Dilworth Community Center. I thought that was a good meeting. I'll let the rest of you comment on that. I was surprised we didn't have a little bit more city involvement. Yesterday morning, I was in interviews the entire morning regarding the RFQs, interviews for the solid waste consulting firm for the new transfer station and hazard household materials facility. That went well. We had 5 interviews. And I think we're asking a little bit more information from 3 of those 5, and hopefully we'll have somebody chosen soon. Then yesterday afternoon, as Commissioner Whalen said, we did meet with Cass County Administrator Keith Burnt and Sheriff Laney, just regarding some of the things going on with the juvenile center. And at 7:30 this morning, Grant and I met, and Brian met with two of our judges and members of their staff and our staff in regards to the security process that downstairs and cell phones. And I think, you know, you all got the letters from the judges and their concerns about getting phones in the courtrooms and their ability to maybe record and things like that. So Chad from our Sheriff's Department is going to research the possibility of getting some lockers that could possibly go on the front entrance. We're going to look at that as an option. Where people, when they come in, they could, especially if they're going into courts, they could leave their phones in the lockers as opposed to having to go back. So, and Chad, as he was leaving, Chad said that he thought that, according to Matt, they'd have money in their budget to deal with that. So it's not a done deal yet, but we're just trying to get some. Chad Hagan, I believe, is with he's a deputy from the Sheriff's Department.
So you would still be looking at everybody have to give up their phone, not just in the district courts?
Well, we talked about there being some discretion by the security staff downstairs. For example, you know, when there's some meetings when we have up here and we know people are coming up here specifically for meetings, they might have some discretion there, but it's by and large mostly as a result of the courts. So, you know, Brian and Grant can chime in, but we're
I think that's it. I mean, the judges made a good case for, you know, the concerns are, you know, now it's a age of everybody recording everything, which is illegal in the courtroom, and so
instantly going to Facebook.
Right, and so, you know, we were looking at, you know, trying at least this lockbox thing to try and, you know, make it more user-friendly for people visiting the courthouse, so. But I think the discretion Kevin was talking about, they plan on exercising that on a more regular basis too, in terms of allowing people in if they're not going to be participating in anything that involves the courtroom, so.
So people who want to come in and use their phones or whatever up in the recorder's office or the taxpayer's not going to help them out any, because they just have to leave their phones in the lockers instead of in the cars.
But they won't have to go back to their car.
Okay. Very
Mr.
good.
Chair?
Yes.
You know, I've observed, you know, people coming and going, and typically the deputies there at the security station say, you know, good morning, why are you here today? And if somebody said, I need to go pay my taxes, I think this would allow them to offer some discretion there and say, go right through. You know, so if they say, no, I'm here for a court proceeding, then the response could be, do you have a phone? You need to leave it in the... So I think maybe that's where we're headed, and that sounds like a good compromise.
That was the intent, and again, it was discussed about there being some discretion with the security people.
One of the things that the judges brought up were that, and the sheriff's office, that most of the courthouses have separate entrances for court facilities and for administrative issues and other county business, and so their position is that most courthouses do, you know, try and control, you know, cell phone access and that type of thing. The reason you know, it's not a problem in some places because, you know, people don't have to go through security to go pay their taxes or do that sort of thing. So. And we don't have that situation right now, so.
Did you have a comment? Okay. All right,
Do you have any more on that?
Mr. Chair, no, I don't think so. I think the boxes are a good idea. They stressed the fact that they are using some discretion right now. And he said, I think if you call down and say there's a meeting up here, we just let them go on up, you know, with their phones. But that doesn't take care of the everyday customer that's going to a recorder's office or something else. But the problem is they've got they get court on the second floor as well. So even if they're going up to court, you know, then they may go into the courtroom, and it isn't so much the protection, the phone issue and the irritation of it is what the judge said, which really kind of rang was protecting the privacy of the people that are attending court, and especially juvenile proceedings and abuse cases. And I think we learned about 3 weeks ago when there was a live videoing of a shooting incident by a police officer that people nowadays will video everything anytime. And that's what they are afraid of, is somebody videoing or audioing the proceedings that are going on in court. And if it was a violation, they could do something about it, but it's already taken place. It's already sent the signal out. And they were very, very concerned about that, and I think that got a lot of our attention, that one child being, or testimony in the court that shouldn't be there would be one way too many. So that was kind of the thought.
So, very good. Jenny?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last week I attended the community input session for the Barnesville area schools. There's a big referendum on the docket for today. It is highly contested. Both sides have valid concerns, so we'll see how that goes today. I want to thank everyone for attending the city meeting in Dilworth. I think that there were some good dialogue that happened between the different entities. I appreciate the fact that the cities were open to meeting on a monthly, 6-month schedule, I would say. I think we can learn a lot from each other as we coordinate projects, and cities can learn a lot from other cities to see what they're doing to encourage growth and development. I was able to reach out to the City of Barnesville council members last night at their meeting. Unfortunately, it just was a date that did not work for the vast majority of those members. They were, however, very excited and open to continuing to have a dialogue with us. So I'm encouraged by that. I also attended the Barnesville area helpers meeting in Barnesville last night. It's a great group that does a lot for elderly care. Dale Raleigh from Lakes and Prairies is very involved with that. I appreciate their outreach efforts. And then I also attended the Buffalo River watershed meeting last night. As you heard from their managers and director today, they're doing great things. They continue to have lots of permits with drain tile, and as we move into a day and age where it's a tool that more farmers use more readily, I think it's important that they continue to update their rules and think about how it all works in the grand scheme compliance-wise. So that concludes my reports, Mr. Chair.
Since we've talked about most things, I didn't have a restorative justice and reentry program meeting last week, and I've got the reentry report here if anybody's interested in looking at it. It's one of those requests we have to pay for part of that reentry program for next year, and I mean, they do a lot of amazing things and work with kids, and it's a long-term program in Clay County, and I don't think there's any question that it's, at least as much as possible decreasing our number of out-of-home placements. So I think it's definitely something, we have to think about funding for next year. So that was it for me.
Wednesday, August 3rd, Warren Planning Commission, general business, and the following were sent to the City Council for final approval. Granted request for final plat approval for J.V. Howe of Prairie Meadows 6th Edition. Rezoning of the City of Moorhead property at 1701 34th Street North from transitional to light industrial, and then amended various texts within the City of Moorhead, within the Moorhead City Code. And that was the only meeting I had, Mr. Chair.
My meetings are things I attended. Tuesday there was a night out. I attended the one at Dilworth and at Hawley, and I was very pleasantly surprised that there was just a lot of people out there on both of the events at Dilworth and Hawley. There was several hundreds of people out in both locations, and I think that program's going along real good. Wednesday, we had an executive meeting with the Metropolitan Council of Governments. Went through the final audit report, which came out very good for MetroCog. Also, our secretary there has resigned because her husband is getting a job at a different town, so we are looking at that. Also on Thursday, excuse me, then on Thursday, I attended the buffer meeting at Detroit Lakes. And I guess that was sort of covered a little bit by Bruce Albright this morning, that we have to determine who's going to do the enforcement of this, you know, and Soil and Water Conservation District can't do it. So either we're going to have to do it, or we're going to have to, New Watershed's going to have to do it. And I think Bruce made a pretty good point about the watershed is out there right now, and they could probably do the enforcement, but we have to do something to say that they're going to be doing it, you know. So, and I think that has to be done by March 2017. You want to make a comment on that, or?
Yeah, well, Mr. Chair, Kevin Gaskenbaum called me yesterday. We had a little conversation about that, and we agreed to sit down and talk about that a little bit. And you know, the state instituted this buffer zone, and it probably is a good idea, but now they come out and say there has to be enforcement. Well, maybe they should pay for it.
No.
Maybe there shouldn't be any enforcement until they decide it gets paid for.
I think that's my next very good point, you know. It's just,
okay, maybe you were going to make that
no,
point, sorry.
Right, you know, who's going to pay for this, you
That's
know?
right.
You know, is the watershed, well, then they're going to have to increase their budget probably, or I don't know if they can work it into their budget, but if we're going to do it, then who's going to do it, you know? Who's going to do the enforcement, you know? And that's, it's going to increase somebody's budget, and it's another one of those mandates. You know, we're going to, first of all, we got to, all these people got to put in buffers, then we got to enforce it. And I don't know if there are some funds that are coming, I think, but I think they're going to be very limited. I think that's more for the establishing the buffer zones, not so much for the enforcement of the buffer zones.
That's right.
So it was an interesting meeting. They had a good, very good presentation. The guys are very knowledgeable. Tom Guile, who works with Bowser. I mean, very knowledgeable people, know what's going on, and it's just that we're going to have to get ready to enforce some of those rules. Thursday night, again, I want to thank the staff. You know, I have to agree with what Kevin was saying. I'm sort of a bit disappointed that only 4 of the cities showed up. You know, but the people that did show up, I mean, I'm talking about the staff that showed up. Brian, thank you so much for getting the word out, and I really want to thank the staff for being there. You know, showing that they have an interest what's going on in the cities, that they're there to serve the people, and thank all the commissioners for being there also. Saturday, I guess it was on the news, I attended the dedication of Bearcat Way up here on 15th Avenue North. They not really renamed it, just gave it an additional name, the National Guard recognizing the Bearcat Way. So that presentation was done Saturday morning. Last night, very interesting meeting at Goose Prairie Township. If you recall, last week we approved the mining operation. And I think they're going to try and get that hearing reopened because of the fact that they feel we didn't consider the safety that was involved in going out, you know, when those trucks are coming out on the road. I guess I was under the impression that we were just approving the mining operation. But by approving the mining operation, they have to, those trucks are going to have to haul that stuff out. They're going to have to get out. And I don't know whose job it is to decide which way they get that gravel out. There's 3 different options. You know, they got, well, if you're not acquainted with it, it's 130th Avenue, which there's no road there at all. 125th Avenue, where a farmer says you cannot go across my land. And then there's 120th Avenue, where there's some people living on that avenue that are saying, we don't want the road in our area. I mean, there's a road there, but we don't want the trucks here.
So I have a question for Attorney. How many times can you reopen a hearing?
So the decision was made by the planning commission,
Right.
and it was appealed to this board. If they wanted further consideration, they would have to appeal it in the district court. That is their only recourse at this point.
Now,
Can't reopen here.
I'm saying what happened at the township meeting last
Oh,
night, that they're looking at,
That's good.
that they're looking at reopening that thing because they feel we didn't consider the safety issue, you know, and they want it reopened somehow, you know, so.
Goose
we-
Prairie would have their own ability to rule on, I'm assuming that the operation had to apply for the same type of permit in that. I don't know their zoning,
They
so.
said that they didn't.
Maybe they don't, I don't know their zoning, but maybe that's what that's related to.
Yeah, I think there's just, I don't know whether Gooseberry's getting caught in the fact that I got a feeling there's trouble making a decision on the fact that, you know, where's that road gonna go? You know, none of those are county roads. They're all either no roads or there's one township road. There's only one road there is the 120th Avenue. And the others, there is no road there. So they have to make a decision, and right now they say there's safety involved. The only road available is 120th Avenue, and they say you can't do it because of safety operations. So I'm just telling you, making you aware of, I think we're going to hear more about that. Okay. Mr. Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last Tuesday, I know some of you and myself attended the luncheon over in West Fargo for the kickoff of the Night to Unite, and that was a good turnout as well. Jenny Shmarajan and I, I gave her a little bit of information, and she did the work on getting a lease established. We haven't certainly signed that. That'll be come to the board, but if you remember, a couple weeks ago, the board was in consensus that we go forward with the leasing of one of the properties that we purchased, and we're working through those details pretty well complete on it. I met with, I think that's already been mentioned, meeting with the juvenile department reference their budget. And, you know, I pointed out the dollar amount. That's about a $200,000 increase on the secure side and another $100,000 on the non-secure side. That's $300,000. And then when you couple that with the out-of-home placements and the jail population, you can't forget about the juvenile population. That request is $300,000 more too. So there's a lot of work to do ahead of us in regards to the budget and where you want to be. Because when they come at you at $300,000 jumps, that's turns into real big money real quick. So. Lori talked to me yesterday, Lori Johnson, and she said she needs 2 commissioners for the primary election canvassing board for Thursday, and she set it for Thursday at 2 p.m. So she'd like 2 of you designated as the canvassing board, and then appoint an alternate as well. And that's why she picked a time, so that you know if you're available for that. So, Mr. Chair, if you could give me a couple names, or...
I know I'm not going to be available.
When is this?
Thursday at 2. I know the diversion means at 3:30.
That'd be right here, yeah.
Canvassing board for what?
Primary election.
We have a primary election today.
Oh.
So she said it'll only take about a half hour.
Thursday, and it's at 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
2 o'clock.
I can be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion to that, or you just need to
Oh, I think it'd be good to have a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Wayne and Kim.
You need an alternate too?
She'd like one.
I
In
just
case
got to
somebody
be out
can't
here
make
by
it.
3 or 3:15.
Yeah.
I have another meeting. I
I'll be out of town, so.
Well, if you can't make it, you can't make it. So she's got 2.
Second the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good.
Thank you very much. Had a legislative update conference call with the Diversion Authority that usually engages the Washington DC representatives too. They said it's pretty quiet right now with the recess and what's going on out there in regards to those kinds of things. Had a couple meetings with our final homeowner. I met Thursday morning and Friday morning, and I reported on that already, that we signed our last purchase agreement on that. Had management team meeting Thursday morning. We talked about several things, a training item, which we usually do, and then we discussed pretty aggressively the budget that we're facing and what the expectations will be, and we'll have to see what is it, just the first part of getting towards the end, middle of August, and you'll have to vote on your maximum levy by about the 20th of September. So we've got a little over a month to do, so we got some work to do. Well, I've talked about you guys have already talked about the roundtable discussion with the rural cities. I thought that went really well. It lasted over 2 hours. I know I got out of there about 8:20. You said about 8:30. So that shows there was a lot of discussion and a lot of communication. Last Friday morning had a Diversion Authority administrative advisory meeting. Met with Joe on some housing issues. We went over to look through what needed to be done. Met with the chair yesterday morning as well. We met on the juvenile center budget that's already been talked about. Met with the judges this morning on cell phones. And just, I guess for planning purposes, now August 30th is the 5th Tuesday of the month. And normally there is not a meeting scheduled. And we can certainly go with that, or should we, for your planning purposes, so if you think you're going to need a 5th one in August for budgetary work or not, but just, I guess, keep it in mind that that is the 5th Tuesday, and right now we don't have any plans to have a meeting unless, Mr. Chair, you decide something different. So we'll keep our ears perked. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Do we need something on that diversion, appoint somebody on that diversion?
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to ask him to talk about that.
Very good, okay.
There's a process in place to look for RFQs for the P3 project. That's part of the Diversion Authority, and each entity, I think, has been asked to have somebody sit in on that, and they do not want to have members of the Diversion Authority on there. And you know, I've talked with Brian about it, and Brian is willing to do it. So I would recommend that we appoint Brian Berg to represent Clay County on that committee. It's an evaluation team to look through the P3 RFQs. Is that correct, Brian?
That is correct, sir.
Yeah, I would make that motion.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
He doesn't have that much to do anyway, so.
That's right.
Do some of that is off time.
Yeah, yeah, some of us don't.
Anything further? Anybody else? We're adjourned.